Welcome to Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. My name is David Schering. I'm the president of Crossroad Bible Institute and the host of your program. You know, everyone wants a place to come home to. And it also strikes me that most people would like to come home to a place of their own. But that's something that's out of reach for millions and millions of people in this country. They just don't have the resources or the capabilities to do so. Well, I have in the studio with me today a special friend, an expert in this area, who's found a solution for that, to help a lot of people who ordinarily would not have a place to come home to have that special place. Welcome, Jonathan Bradford.
Thank you, David. It's good to be with you.
Jonathan is the president or executive director of ICCF, Inner City Christian Federation.
Very good.
And I think you're celebrating your 40th year this year. And I think you've been there at least 35 of those 40 years.
Well, 33, but who's counting?
Who's counting at our age, right? And so you've had this this marvelous ministry concentrating on Grand Rapids, correct?
That's correct.
That's your focus. Well, tell us about that. People who don't have access to housing. You're trying to help them, but you're also, and I want to get into that too, you want to help improve a city, and you have learned a lot that could be of benefit to any city, because many cities are struggling with the same issues. Am I right?
That's right. There's a couple of very good, simple ways for me to introduce the work of ICCF. I call it the rule of threes. There are three key functions, and they are residential construction, real estate development finance, and adult learning for empowerment and education for life success. There are three key program areas: emergency shelter for homeless families, permanent rental housing for those who choose to or can only rent, and then home ownership opportunities.
Wow, you help them right through the stage to if they're homeless, you can start working with them.
Often, right all the way through the continuum.
Wow.
Yep. With a little more detail, let me say that while we are a housing organization, sometimes referred to as a community development corporation, because first of all, we are a group of God's people seeking to be faithful to His call, that we love our neighbor, that we seek the places in our communities that are broken, that need restoration and reconciliation. We more often talk about ourselves as really not a housing organization, but a futures ministry.
A futures ministry.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So let me explain that. First of all, with a nod to the poet T.S. Eliot, who wrote, "Home is where one starts from." We recognize the extraordinary value of a safe place. If I ask people what home means to them, I'll hear words like safety, love, food, privacy, warmth. Sometimes I'll add identity. I might even suggest algebra. It's where the kids get the homework done, you know?
Right.
And so all of those things are so endemic to life success. We see between 2,200 and 2,600 families a year,
Wow.
and generally half of them are spending one half of their income or more on housing. Too often they're spending money on housing that is not safe, that is hard to keep warm.
Are you dealing with like absentee landlords and things like that?
All the time, yes. All kinds of landlord issues. But the physical condition of the house is a common problem. The commanding of more than half of their income is a second common problem. And if those issues are intolerable, then we'll find people doubling up or tripling up with other families. So crowdedness would be the third problem. Cost, condition, and crowdedness are the three issues. So remembering that cute phrase, home is where one starts from, we're not just talking about where we got up this morning, took a shower, and had a cup of coffee. We're talking about rootedness of life. We're talking about the development of healthy self-concepts. We're talking about modeling between parent and child the values, the skills, the attitudes that make for life success.
Now let me push back right here. what we've learned, working with people in prison and their families and so forth, and also people that are in poverty, frequently their homes are not like a fireplace burning and mom reading a book to Junior. The homes are in chaos. The homes don't have a father there. The homes maybe the children have different last names, and I'm not exaggerating. How does home ownership change all of that?
Well, if you wouldn't mind, let's just broaden it from just home ownership to decent housing, whether
Okay,
that's
good.
owned or rented. The quality of the house, the physical quality, the percent of the family's income that the house commands, and the privacy. These are key things. In other words, they're the opposite of those three issues which I articulated. These things help help enable life to succeed. In other words, they are sort of threshold or entry prerequisites. We can't guarantee a college degree if the house is safe and doesn't cost too much. But without a safe house, a warm house, a house that doesn't command too much, the chances that a young fellow or a young lady will succeed in college or get to college even, let alone graduate, are much, much diminished.
Wow.
There's a correlation, and even in elementary school educational achievement, there is direct correlation between the quality of the house that the child stays in and his or her performance in school the next day.
Oh, that is just amazing. So the environment, the physical environment,
Absolutely.
Affects the whole social, emotional sort of thing. How do you move a person though from they're in poverty, can't afford it. They perhaps there are addiction difficulties, family chaos, joblessness, and not understanding how to get and keep a job. You just can't plop a person in a house and for these things to all go away.
Well, that's why at ICCF we're not content just to build the house, nail the shingles down, paint the front door, and turn the key over. Our organization is not, as I said earlier, not just a housing organization. We are a futures ministry.
Holistic, isn't it?
Yes. So in other words, we start by making sure the house is designed well, and I should come back to that in a moment, that it is built with quality, that the financial structure of it is renders it affordable to the family that we're seeking to serve. But then, is the family able to pull from within themselves the skills? Do they have the self-confidence, the hope, the raw, basic optimism that keeps us all motivated? Is that there? And that's why everybody who is in our housing, whether they're homeless, whether they're renting, whether they're going to be a homeowner or have just become homeowners, they have access to our vast curriculum of adult learning opportunities. And let me summarize them. There is a curriculum of home maintenance, so we can help a family learn how to do minor plumbing repairs or landscaping. Then there's home management issues, family budgeting, insurance and taxes, savings and investing, community relations. These are all classes that we offer multiple times every year, and we charge very, very minimal fees. I believe most of them are just simple $5. We need to have some investment, some engagement in this learning process.
Got to get some skin in the game.
Right. But then we have a lot of ancillary services. For instance, financial literacy. There's a huge amount, a huge dearth in our population in general about basic financial skills. I mean, I'm talking about managing a checkbook.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we do a lot of credit remediation. Supposing you've let the credit cards run your life.
Right.
It is fiercely difficult to get off of that. We know how to help people do that. Then there is also the matter of foreclosure. We, of course, know about the crisis that we've come through as a nation in our economy and the implosion of the housing market. Well, for about 4 years running, we served between 80 and 100 families a month with foreclosure intervention work. And we provided that service, I'm proud to be able to say, regardless of income. People, sometimes through their own fault, sometimes through circumstances they really had no control over, found themselves facing foreclosure, and they simply did not know what to do. For between 3 and 4 years, I think it was closer to 4 years, we had average intakes that ran more than 80 cases a month. And that kept between 3 and 5 of our staff members busy nonstop, working with the borrowing family, with the lender, whether the lender was in Grand Rapids or in Long Beach, California. We were able to help between 65 and 70% of the families that came to us. In other words, it was appropriate to help them stay in the house, and we found ways to work with the lenders to enable that to happen. In the other 35% of the cases, it was probably not appropriate for them to stay, and we helped them get out gracefully.
After the break, I want there's so much I want to talk to you about, but after the break, I'd like just give us a thumbnail sketch of a case study of someone who's,
Happy to.
Okay. We'll be right back after this.
At Crossroad Bible Institute, we are committed to helping people in prison develop relationships with Jesus Christ. By correcting Bible study lessons and writing letters of encouragement, CBI instructors participate in this ministry in a safe and secure way. For more information or to sign up to become a CBI instructor, please visit us at cbi.fm on the web.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. My name is David Schuringa, and I have in the studio with me today Jonathan Bradford, who's the Executive Director of ICCF here in Grand Rapids, Inner City Christian Fellowship. And I'll have to tell you, I have a little disclosure here in that Jonathan and I have known each other for over 40 years. I've been married 42 years. You've been married about a little more than that.
No, just 42.
And so we know that. And the reason we know each other is because we married sisters.
We did. And I'm impressed with the choice that we have. The discernment that we have is to be commended.
I think so. I think we married well. I mentioned that because I think I'm learning more today about what you do than all the family gatherings that we have enjoyed. And before the break, I just mentioned there's a whole bunch I want to talk about, and our time is short. But just give the viewer a thumbnail sketch of how this happens. Somebody needs a house, needs a home. How do they do that?
Okay. First of all, the demand is so significant we never have to advertise. People come to us in our offices on Cherry Street, and there will be an initial application that will tell us where they are. It's a very simple application.
So they just walk off the street into the office and say, I need help.
They've been referred perhaps by another social service agency, perhaps a bank, perhaps their pastor, maybe a sister or some other relative who's been helped by us. So the word does get around, and they'll come in, and we will work with the family. I'll tell you about a family that came to us just 2 days ago. Jill and Steve are parents of 3 children. A couple of them are special needs children. They have a house, a very nice house, but it is costing them too much money. They have, because of the needs of the family, they have gotten into some debt difficulties, and their mortgage. They entered it because of their credit rating. Their mortgage interest rate is higher than either you or I would be willing to accept. And so they're paying too much on their house payment. And in fact, the hole is getting deeper by the month. So we were contacted by a friend of our organization. Would we be willing to talk to this young family? And we did so. And we have discerned where they are at. We've looked at their credit rating. We looked at their income. We've looked at their outstanding debts. We've looked at the mortgage terms of the loan that they have.
That's like having a free financial advisor. It's wonderful.
Well, yeah, but the important thing is that we couple that with a plan that they can work out. We're not going to do it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this particular case, they are in a house that is adequate, and we don't have to think about relocating them. But there will be many times when a young family is living in an unsafe situation, or perhaps in a dangerous situation that the owner of which is not about to improve it. So we would say to somebody, and I'll use some quick and easy numbers here, the fair market rent in Grand Rapids for a 3-bedroom apartment right now is just under $900.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. There are many places now, particularly in the central 35% of our city, that are considerably above that. That's yet another question. Since we've come out of the recession, we've seen an explosion in real estate values, and that includes then rent.
I've heard that with rent. They're getting away with murder, aren't they, out there?
Yep. Well, let's take a hypothetical family, and I will tell you that something in the vicinity of 60% of the families we see are single-parent families, and most often female-headed.
Sure.
Mom is working one job at $11 an hour, and that's $3 more than minimum wage, and she's fortunate to have that. And she's fortunate to have full-time work. Well, she's earning $22,000 a year, roughly. She has 2 children, and they need school clothes and food and medicine. She has to have transportation to work and so forth. If she is renting at the fair market rent, which is really the median rent in our market,
it's half her income.
It's half of her income. The slightest little surprise, supposing her son breaks his leg at school, sure, and she has a medical copay. Supposing the radiator in her 7-year-old car blows a leak, and she's got a $500 repair. Little storms like that can shipwreck a family in no time at all. So the long and the short of it is, we want this family not to spend half of their income on housing. And our mission is to help them discover how to do that. And the beautiful thing is, in helping them discover first the unit. Okay, do we have one, or can we get them led to a unit that will work for them? That's step one. Okay, here it is, Mary. Here is a place that you can rent for $600, not $900. Okay, she says, and it's every bit the same size, but it's in much better condition. And then she now has $300 of post-tax cash that stays in her pocket every month.
Yeah.
Mary, what will you do with that $300? And so our attention is not just to the new lease and the key in the door of the apartment. Our attention is to the economic empowerment. There we are again, her future. What will she do with $3,600 a year that she used to spend on housing?
Right. And you're interested in that?
We're very interested in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this holistic approach, as I'm calling it, it's in contrast with, I think, I grew up in Chicago and stuff, and they had these things called the projects.
And I think we can say concrete prisons.
Yeah.
Is really what they amounted to. I'm familiar with the many such developments in Chicago and other big cities, and there are very, very few of them left.
They all
it is
imploded,
simply because they were not healthy environments for people. They were not community builders. They were breeders of hatred and resentment and crime and family dysfunction. At ICCF, we have studied a lot about the shape of the built environment. Okay, so what is a healthy neighborhood? What is a community that facilitates stability and opportunity? And so we have developed some standards, if you will, some design specifications. So it's not just enough to find that vacant lot, pour that concrete foundation, and build the house. how close does the house get built to the next house? That's a key question.
Sure.
And design matters. Does the house have a 412 roof pitch? And if I might demonstrate, a 412 roof pitch would be a rather shallow pitch, such as this. Or does it have a 1212 roof pitch, like this? Why is that important? Because in an older neighborhood, all of the houses have a 1212 roof pitch. Does it have a front porch that goes across the width of the house, or is it 6 by 6 right by the front door? That's important because front porches are outdoor rooms.
Sure.
Outdoor rooms facilitate community and communications.
Sure.
Okay. If there is a 6 by 6 concrete stoop, there's no place for you and your wife to sit and have a cup of coffee in the evening, and as I walk by, I want to have a contact with you. If you're not there, I don't have contact with you. But if you have a porch that invites you to be there, I then can have contact with you as I pass by. The amount of glass area to wall area, we call that the fenestration ratio. Okay? Those are important things because glass lets in natural light. Glass is more expensive than a wall. Glass is very, very important, though, because it creates a connection with the environment.
We feel it right here.
We do, sure.
After the break, and our time is almost out, but we'll have a couple minutes yet after the break. I'd like to talk about this on a grand scale, because we hear about inner city blight, and I think this is what we're talking about right here. We'll be right back after this.
Are you in prison? Do you know someone who is? Through CBI Bible studies and encouragement from CBI instructors, more than 40,000 people behind bars are learning the truth about salvation through Christ and are developing deeper relationships with God. For an enrollment form, please visit us online at cbi.fm.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. We've been having an invigorating, interesting conversation with Jonathan Bradford, the president of Inner City Christian Fellowship, learning that to help people have a home to come to is much more than simply constructing a box for them and give them a key.
That's right.
But it's about educating them on the various aspects of maintaining a home. It's a holistic approach, and even at the end of the last segment, you talked about it's even a matter of the shape of that home and the location of that home.
Right.
So this is a very holistic thing, and we don't have to have a big conversation about this, but I just want people to realize this is something that inner cities are dealing with in many, many places, right?
Yeah.
Obviously Detroit next door, but all inner cities are struggling with this, and you guys are finding some answers.
Yeah. Winston Churchill told the British House of Commons, I believe it was in 1947, we shape our buildings thereafter they shape us.
It's powerful.
And I think we would all recognize that the very configuration of the space where we live and work or go to school, the color of the walls, that has an impact on us. It affects our outlook. I'm fond of pointing out that architects know what colors to paint kindergarten classrooms and what colors to use in prisons, and they're different colors.
Well, we're in the middle of our art gallery here and stuff, and what I learned in my PhD studies and so forth, a particular painting on the wall of your home can have an effect on you and your children, because they see that again and again and again.
I agree.
It's so that space is very powerful. Now you didn't just make this stuff up out of the blue. Both of us come from a particular worldview.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, we both embrace and with joy the truth that Christ is Lord of all. That in fact God is grieved. Our loving Father in heaven is grieved when an economic relationship between a landlord and a tenant is broken. And when a city does not sufficiently care for its streets, or when healthy neighborhoods unwrap and unravel and become hotbeds of prostitution and drug dealing, we have a broken situation. And in the fact that we have been reconciled to God through Christ, the old is gone, the new has come, 2 Corinthians 5. Therefore, be his ambassadors. And in chapter 6, verse 1, don't receive the grace of God in vain. I don't know about you. Yes, I do know about you. For both of us, those are challenging words. Those words tell us that we are simply not able to sit by and let that kind of brokenness persist.
Well, it all involves, of course, a very holistic view of Scripture and so forth. And at Crossroad, we're emphasizing the same thing more and more, that prison ministry is not just about changing hearts of people in prison, but we need to change a sinful system out there that hinders their ability to live. And when you're dealing with the shape of a house, that's just as religious and biblical as working to shape their hearts.
That's exactly right.
And that's what a lot of people and a lot of Christians don't quite get.
Right. And then when I approach that topic and those truths with the reality that Mr. Hernandez or Mrs. Johnson who come to us were loved so much to have been created in God's image, that he wants good for them. He wants opportunity and stability. He wants shalom. Okay? We are called to be the agents of renewal wherever there is that brokenness. We both agree. But when Mr. Hernandez doesn't have a toehold, when he does not know how, when he simply doesn't have a chance to reduce his rent burden from 50 to 25% of his income, he needs help.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about.
Well, and that's the beauty of it. And also, as we close here, what's your website? ICCF.org?
ICCF, the four letters, ICCF.org.
It's okay. So I first want to make sure I get that out there, that ICCF.org, and they can find ways to maybe volunteer and get involved and get informed on this. And what I want to close with is that there probably are people out there that think, well, people get themselves into these messes, and I'm not in that mess, and so forth, and forgetting that we do have, you and me, hundreds of years of privilege.
Well, that's exactly right, too.
Hundreds of years of privilege.
That's right.
They did not have that. We have it ingrained in us. How do you handle your money? How you do this? How you do that?
Right.
So we should not be thinking that we are not in that situation because we're somehow morally superior. And we have an obligation to use our power to empower the powerless, whether they are the people in the inner city, people in prison. I think we're in agreement on that.
Fully agree. People have made bad choices, or they make good choices that are not honored by others. But regardless of the history, just as I quoted earlier, the old is gone, the new has come. Well, that old may be a history of bad choices. Sure. But how dare we judge a person and hold those bad choices against them forever?
Yeah.
So we are about the renewal that is promised us, a renewal that is holistic, that is universal. And when that housing issue can be moved away, it is thrilling. It is nothing short of thrilling to see a family take off, to see educational achievement and athletic accomplishment and a new music ability developed.
A new life.
A marriage stabilized.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all there.
Jonathan, we could talk a long time. We've got to have you back, I think. Thank you so much for being with us. We've learned so much. You're doing such a great work for the expansion of God's kingdom and the renewal of our cities. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, David.
And thank you for being with us, and we hope that you'll be right here next week.